Welcome to episode 28 of Drew's Baseball Crew here on Saturday, June 3rd, 2023. Myself, Drew Skyberg, bringing you your winning lineup on Fantasia Sports. Right, and with that, we're going to be previewing the DFS slate on Saturday, June 3rd. It's going to be a great episode. We have a lot of baseball. I believe 16 games. We got a doubleheader. So, looks like 16 games on the slate. And what's more exciting is Tyler Glasnow's pitching in game 2. So, talking, he's actually, right, you'll see him on the thumbnail here. He makes the cut here, Tyler Glasnow. Really looking forward to watching that. Love the Tampa Bay Rays. I think they might be my favorite AL team. Of course, you see in the background the favorite NL team. Got some huge Brewer giveaways this year, as you can see, too. So, really happy about that. But let's get going here. Happy to join you all on this weekend, right? So feel free, if you have any questions, any start sit dilemmas, right? Whatever you want to call it in DFS, feel free to send them in. I'd be happy to give you my opinion on that. Starting, let's go to the pitcher report. You know the drill. Tyler Glasnow, I'm going to go right back to him. Career versus the current Boston Red Sox roster. XBA of 188, xWOBA of 214, K percentage of 33.3%. You bet Glasnow is going to be my lineup today. Then we got Michael Lorenzen versus Dylan Cease. I like Cease today in that bounce back star. I know that it hasn't been there, but the numbers are too good to be true. XBA of 224, K percentage 31.4% as well. So I was looking at that. And then also it's Montgomery versus Luis Ortiz today. This one's an interesting one. I don't know. Ortiz has some swing and miss stuff, but I'm worried about Ortiz today. Montgomery, then also not so great numbers against the current Pirates roster. Andrew Heaney's going today for Seattle. Heaney's been phenomenal this year. XBA of 212, K percentage of 30.6 against the current Seattle Mariners roster as well. Good numbers to back that up. Mackenzie Gore has been filthy this year so far. He's against the current Phillies roster. Small sample size, but good numbers. So Mackenzie Gore, keep him in mind. Christian Javier has dominated the current Los Angeles Angels roster for his career. Listen to this. 74 plate appearances against. K percentage of 48.6. Hey, Eric, who we stacking today? We'll get to the stacks here later in the episode. We first go through our pitcher report, and then we'll hammer those stacks down. I can tell you, I always like to look right away. Where's Colorado playing? Like, if it's the game at Coors, it's at Kauffman Stadium, so probably not a Coors stack today, right? They're not at Coors, but we're definitely not stacking against Christian Javier either, as I mentioned. Dominant numbers, 48.6 K percentage in 74 plate appearances. It's incredible stuff there for Christian Javier. Going over to Austin Gomber and Daniel Lynch, that game I mentioned. You're probably not going to take either today, even though we're out of Coors. Gomber has probably more upside than Lynch, though. Just worried about Lynch coming back, his second start this year. Some concerns for me. Tyler McGill against Jose Barrios is going to be a matchup. We're going to monitor Barrios. Has great numbers against the Mets for his career. 61 career plate appearances against. XBA of 228. xWOBA of 299. We're going to go to Miami. Look at that next here. Yuri Perez is another guy I'll circle. I'll go through my top pitchers after this. But Yuri Perez, he's never faced this Athletics roster, but Miami's definitely a good park for him to be pitching in. And I've liked what I've seen from Perez. I think the upside, we've seen it. It's huge. Certainly, love what we're going to probably get out of Perez today. The other one, I know the numbers are not great on paper against this current roster, but it's Logan Allen. Logan Allen against the current Minnesota Twins roster. Like I said, those numbers aren't necessarily great, but what we've seen from Logan Allen, he's been pure filth this year. I think Logan Allen, there's a lot of good sleeper stars today, so we definitely, if you can play a two-pitcher lineup, I'm all for it today. Because he's going against Sonny Gray, XBA of 241 against him in 125 career plate appearances, and then xWOBA of 294. Also, Colin Ray is heading off or squaring off against Graham Ashcraft. We'll talk about probably the over-under in that one. I'm going to guess it's a pretty sizable amount with that game in Cincinnati, but we'll wait and see on that. We got 4 more games left. Bear with me. Spencer Strider's going today, so you all know the drill. He's against the Diamondbacks. Definitely go with him today. Out in Arizona, Darvish against the Cubs. Very good numbers against this roster for his career. So there's a lot of guys you can go to. We got to find the pitchers to stack against. Alex Cobb is looking for a bounce back start here. XBA of 187 against him. XWOBA of 171. I definitely like Cobb today as well. Then Garrett Cole against the Dodgers. 138 career plate appearances against. XBA of 247. K percentage of 24.6. So to some, who are you taking a pitcher? This is insane today. Right? I'm going to list the guys at first, and I'll list the guys I would go with. So the first guys who I'm overall acceptable taking: Spencer Strider, Yu Darvish, Alex Cobb, Logan Allen, and then going through it: Yuri Perez, Jose Barrios, Christian Javier, Mackenzie Gore, Andrew Heaney, and Dylan Cease, Tyler Glasnow. Who I would go with. I think my stack would look like, or my two pitchers, depending on Strider's price, I want Strider, but then I probably am going. I'll probably go like Darvish and Glasnow, but then if I'm like, which we'll talk about stacks, if there's a stack I want to capitalize on, I would be okay with taking like Logan Allen. And Eric, you're wondering, no Jordan Montgomery. So looking at Montgomery today, the model. So we're going right away to we're looking at Statcast, right? Thank you, Baseball Savant. XBA is 263 for against him, and then the XWOBA 306. Numbers aren't bad, but the thing is, the K percentage right now is 17.7% against him, or what he has against this Pirates roster. So strikeouts haven't been there in 62 career plate appearances against. And so he has a pretty good sample size where we can kind of see what we're looking at. And it's numbers aren't necessarily ideal against a lot of the guys in the lineup. So I'm not looking Jordan Montgomery today. I know the numbers this year for Montgomery have been good, but passing on Montgomery today. I will go next here. We go to Ballpark Pal, right? We love Ballpark Pal. They take weather, they take park factors into it, so we can kind of see what we're looking at. And kind of what we're seeing with the runs and such. We're seeing PNC also as a nice hitter's park today too, a plus 4% change with runs today. So another reason there, I'm a little off of Montgomery today as well. And as I mentioned, Great American Ballpark plus 20% change in runs today. So when you ask where the stack is, I think the stack is actually, you see the background, but Vegas has it priced out at 10.5 over under on runs, plus 20% change in runs per weather on Ballpark Pal, plus it's the highest over under in runs. I think the stack makes it for itself. I think we're going to Milwaukee or Cincinnati for the stack, but we're going to the Milwaukee Brewers and the Reds for a stack today. I'll talk about how we're going to develop that stack here. But first, let me just go through some individual players matchups I'm picking out at, because I like to pick out at individual players based on career record, how they're performing this year. So first off, I'm looking at what guys have performed well against, some guys who, some sample size. And right away, I'm going to go to Alex Bregman. So we know Bregman crushes left-handed pitching. He's got a nice matchup today against Patrick Sandoval. Currently, for his career, he's 5 for 11 against him with a home run, 2 walks to 1 strikeout. He's dominated so far, Patrick Sandoval, for his career. Also, Chas McCormick, put him with potentially there. Also 5 for 11, only 2 strikeouts there. McCormick, Bregman, right? Those right-handed hitters with Houston have seen Sandoval a lot, and they have had some great success against him as well. For Garrett Cole, not David Montgomery. I'm thinking football. Just had a dynasty draft yesterday, but David Peralta with the Los Angeles Dodgers against Garrett Cole. 5 for 12 for his career with 3 doubles and only 1 strikeout. So David Peralta with the Dodgers, we'd be looking there. I think of Corey Dickerson as a guy who's pretty comparable to Peralta, a great platoon guy where in DFS Also like Darren Ruff, which he unfortunately just went the IL, but those are some guys I'm thinking about. Josh Naylor, who has been on fire lately, would be a great guy to take today. 5 for 13 against Gray for his career. 2 home runs, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts. I'm liking Naylor today as an individual guy to plug in. Next up, Andrew McCutchen off Jordan Montgomery. Going more into it. 5 for 14 with his career. 1 home run, 1 walk to 1 strikeouts. I'd be fine with taking McCutchen as like as one of those another plug plays. But currently, how I'm looking at it, I think the stack might be in Houston too. There could be multiple stacks that I would be fine taking. So I'll talk more about those. But Tyrone Taylor, right off Graham Ashcraft, he's been 429 OPS, just around 900 for him. So be looking if Taylor gets into the lineup today for Milwaukee. Currently, my projected lineup, where we got to monitor still too with some changes. John Singleton gets called up today too, so he could actually be DHing. So I'm gonna want to wait on that. But yeah, Tyrone Taylor is a guy in that Brewers lineup I would be looking at to form my stack. Want to just wait and see how that lineup goes with Ruff now being moved to IL. It sounds like so. We'll check that out. But Brandon Belt against Tyler McGill is the last one I want to really focus on. The slugging's insane here. 2 home runs to 1 strikeout. Yeah, you heard that. 2 home runs to 1 strikeout so far for Belt off of Tyler McGill. Definitely want to get Belt in my lineup. So again, to sum up those guys who I'm just going to be taking, as not like kind of like streamers, like those guys to want to just to take by on their own. I'm looking at the Houston stack I've talked about, but I'm looking at Josh Naylor, David Peralta, and then I'm looking at also those guys. I mentioned the Houston stack. I don't want to repeat those, but looking at Gavin Sheets, a guy who I didn't even mention yet, Tyrone Taylor, and Brandon Belt. So kind of like formulating, there's 6 or 7 guys there who I feel you plug them in, I think you're going to get a good ROI, return on investment, with those guys. So let's go through now. Let's look at those stacks. Let's make them right now before we wrap up here. Going through the stacks, right? The big thing I'm looking at is, I talked about it already. I'm looking at the Houston game. I'm looking at, kind of like what the run factors though is going to be in that game as well. -7%, but the game's at Minute Maid Park. It's a dome. Not too worried about that, but I think most of that over under is because of how dominant Javier's been for his career. So when we go through matchups today, big thing I'm looking at is who has the most upside here. And the big one, right? I mean, those Brewers, I talked about the Brewers who I'm looking at, my stack. I guess let's start with that Brewers stack. And I don't want to be the Yelich truther. I had him on my parlays after Sports Crew over fantasy yesterday. I want to talk about Yelich, though, against Graham Ashcraft. Ballpark Pal, the model, really likes him today. A plus 35% positive change in runs created for him today. Eric, I'm a big Brewers guy, but, when I try to put my bias aside when we talk DFS, I never really recommend the Brewers. They've been struggling offensively, but a series in Cincinnati, a plus 20% change in runs scored. It's all there for them today. The weather's the best in Cincinnati for runs today. Over-under's the biggest. Again, Christian Yelich is the guy I'm looking at. With that, I talked about the percentage change in runs for him. Pretty valuable in a sense of fantasy, too, with the walks and just steals, too. Weimer hits a home run yesterday. I can't really go with him. But honestly, I'm looking at Tellez, too. Tellez just missed a home run yesterday. I'm looking at the stack as the following. I'm looking at Tyrone Taylor, Christian Yelich, and Rowdy Tellez. I think Taylor's going to get a bump in the lineup today. So it might be like a 1-3-5 kind of stack today. Yeah, Eric, I know it's funny, but, you got to find the upside. If you see it, you got to take it. And not to, with the Montgomery pick, looking at not taking him again too. The model really likes some of those Pirates guys and a potential Pirate stack as well. I wouldn't go that far, but yeah. Eric, what's your favorite team? Um, yeah, listeners always, if you're listening live on Spotify or if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you can always come in the YouTube stream, have guests in now or have viewers in now. We can talk through some of the plays today. Love talking with listeners here, but going through on the Cincinnati side, ooh, Red Sox fan. Yeah, no Red Sox for me today. Sorry. Um, maybe Devers, but I think with a doubleheader too, it gets weird. Looking through, kind of taking, looking at game 2. We don't know what guys are going to sit. We don't know how fatigue sets in. Playing 4 o'clock. Gotcha. So we're looking at the Cincinnati now. The stack, kind of what you would be looking at there. I'm looking. Okay, you're playing at DraftKings, so it's 2-pitcher. I recommend Fantasia Sports as they have the new picks feature as well. So if you want a free code on that, let me know. But going through that, the 4 o'clock slate, we've talked about those stacks there. That Brewers game, I do want to talk about a little bit here. I hit on the Brewers stack. I would look at. I'm looking at Spencer Steer with the Reds, playing probably first base today. He's done well so far. He's really inserted into that as well. But then looking at some other guys, Matt McLean, the model really likes today. Again, model is Ballpark Pal, links down below. You can check this stuff out, but the model really likes him today as well. Plus 24% change in runs created there for Matt McLean. And then I also go with Jake Fraley. Jake Fraley's been a guy who's he's been Mr. Consistency in that, Reds lineup extra base hit wise too. Ray does a good job limiting soft contact, I feel, but when the ball flies today, we think it's gonna, kind of worried for Colin Ray today. So those are the stack I'm looking at there. But then with Houston, the other team I'm looking at where I'd stack it is in the following. It's against Sandoval. And I'm looking at this kind of stack. I'm looking at the Bregman at 4. I'm looking at McCormick at 8. So it's kind of a pretty wide stack. And then I'm looking at potentially if you can pay up and get Alvarez, the numbers are good. Otherwise, you go with Tucker at the 5 spot. So it's a pretty weird stack where it's 4, 5, 8 potentially. But I do think McCormick might get bumped up in the lineup today. So I think we might be looking at more of, a 4, 5, 7 stack, something more reasonable. But I'm really looking at the middle of the order with Houston today. I think there's a lot of good upside there. Over under is 8.5 there, so it's not like they're projecting some runs. But again, I do think Christian Javier being 6-1 with a 2.97 ERA and just absolutely dominating the Los Angeles Angels for his career, I think that plays a factor. But then lastly, looking at, I should have mentioned this earlier, but I wanted to just clarify it. Weather-wise, we're looking at some chance of rain, but we're not looking at, we're not looking at games being probably postponed tonight. That St. Louis-Pittsburgh game has some rain on the radar potentially, 32% chance though. So not too worried on those games, but all the stacks I've mentioned, all the games are, they're clear to go. So just trying to cover that, but otherwise just note on some of those individual guys I mentioned, watching weather on that. But that's all I got. I'm going to wrap it up. I wanted to shout out Point Brewery, of course, as always. No root beer today. It's kind of early, but go out there, enjoy your Saturday and Sunday, win some DFS. Good luck to you, Eric. Appreciate the comments coming in here on YouTube. But otherwise, that's going to wrap it up here for myself, Drew Skyberg at Drew Sports Crew on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, Drew Sports Crew on YouTube and Facebook. Thank you all for listening to another episode of Drew Sports Crew, the perfect podcast for you.